from ABC News, World News Sunday. Substituting for Sam Donaldson, here's Tom Gerald.
Good evening. Pope John Paul returned to the Vatican tonight after arousing the ire of Poland's highest officials during his third and most controversial trip to his homeland. Throughout his latest pilgrimage, the Pope seemed on the offensive against the Warsaw government, throwing the Vatican's support behind the outlawed Solidarity Union. That prompted an unexpected last-minute meeting between the Pope and the head of Poland's Communist Party, as David Ensor reports.
The hastily arranged final meeting was a chance for General Jaruzelski to privately react to what the Pope has been saying. Polish officials declined comment, but church officials confirmed the Jaruzelski government is not happy with what it sees as the political tone of the Pope's remarks. In his farewell speech, Poland's leader used a word that he must think the Pope uses too often. But Jaruzelski wasn't talking about the free trade union he has outlawed. He spoke of the need for solidarity with the oppressed throughout the world. John Paul preferred to speak of Poland. It needs real dialogue, he said, between the authorities and the people. And this morning, the Pope showed where his sympathies lie, with a visit to the grave of a pro-Solidarity priest who was murdered by a group of Polish police. The killers were jailed. They were men from the same force controlling the crowd today. For a long time, the Pope stood deep in thought at the grave, surrounded by banners of the union the martyred priest championed. John Paul kissed the parents of Father Jerzy Popiełuszko. A commemorative bell was rung for the first time. Outside the church, Poles of all ages raised a V for victory. It has been an extraordinary week for Poland, during which fully a third of the nation's 37 million people are thought to have seen the Pope. John Paul's presence gave his countrymen a rare chance to show their true feelings, and he spoke forcefully for their desire for greater freedoms. But tomorrow the country will return to normal, and sadly many here say normal for Poland is a sick economy, an unpopular government, a demoralized people. David Ensor, ABC News, Warsaw.
In Seoul, South Korea, 5 days of violent anti-government demonstrations ended abruptly and unexpectedly today, when riot police withdrew from positions surrounding student demonstrators opposed to Korea's President Chung Do-won. The latest now from Jim Laurie.
The holdout anti-government protesters were both happy and a little bewildered when Korean riot police suddenly pulled out under the cover of darkness. Several hundred students had taken refuge at the Myeongdong Cathedral after riots last Wednesday, refusing to give up unless they were promised free passage and immunity from prosecution. Now that police were gone, the students were not sure they wanted to leave. Leaving at night, some said, would weaken their cause, so they planned to wait until daylight. Earlier, the government had allowed Sunday Mass as usual. Church officials who are sympathetic to the students were conducting negotiations to end the occupation around the cathedral. The government agreed to back off and let the students go home, but gave no guarantee they would not be arrested later. In an attempt to gain leniency for the students, some of their mothers turned up at police lines and presented flowers to the hardened riot troops. The gesture in most cases was rejected, but 9 hours later, the police were gone. Also today, thousands of ordinary churchgoers joined students in the largest anti-government rally this week, a rally the government did nothing to stop. The crowd chanted, "End dictatorship," and revised the Constitution. The 5 days of protest here had been sparked by the government's refusal to even consider changing the Constitution to allow direct election of a new president. Instead, the ruling party chose its chairman, Roh Tae-woo, to succeed Chung Do-won as president next year in a manner where he'd be virtually unopposed. It seems clear now the government was surprised by the support the students got from ordinary people. And that may be one reason why the government appears to have backed down as the best way to diffuse tensions here. Jim Laurie, ABC News, Seoul.
The Iran-Contra congressional hearings have taken a 2-week break from the public spotlight, but some of the most important work is going on now behind the scenes. It involves former National Security Council advisor Admiral John Poindexter and a memo he wrote, which today was described as being a crucial piece of evidence. Kenneth Walker reports.
Former National Security Advisor Admiral John Poindexter already has begun private testimony before congressional lawyers, now turning to the final and most critical phase of their investigation, an examination of the role of the president. The immediate focus has turned to a 1986 memo Poindexter ordered written for the president by Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North. The memo, which mentions the diversion of funds from Iranian arms sales to the Nicaraguan Contras, never has been proven to have reached the president, who repeatedly has denied any knowledge of the diversion. On This Week with David Brinkley, House Committee Chairman Lee Hamilton explained the importance of the document.
If that memo had reached the hands of the president and he had approved it, that would be the smoking gun referred to a moment ago. I think it is likely, if that occurred, and let us emphasize this, that if it occurred, you would have a demand for impeachment proceedings.
Because committee lawyers have not yet reported any bombshells to the leadership, as they are under orders to do, Hamilton indicated that so far, Poindexter's secret depositions, still underway, contain no smoking gun.
What will emerge from that, so far as I'm concerned, remains to be seen.
Even without impeachment, the president's most vocal defender on the House committee said the damage already has been done.
I think the president is certainly troubled. He is indeed a lame duck, and I'd hate to have the last memory of the Reagan administration, the two of them, be this Iran-Contra controversy, because it's nothing anyone can be proud of.
Determined to show no public concern about the hearings, the president launches an offensive of his own against the Congress in an Oval Office speech tomorrow night and a visit to the Capitol Tuesday to try to win long-time goals on budget reform. Kenneth Walker, ABC News, the White House.
In his speech tomorrow night, President Reagan is expected to announce that he's ordering U.S. arms negotiators to wrap up an agreement with the Soviets to eliminate all medium and short-range nuclear missiles in Europe. The Allies reportedly gave the green light to that agreement on Friday. ABC News will televise the president's speech live beginning at 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
World News Sunday, brought to you by General Foods Corporation.
In Fort Mill, South Carolina, deposed PTL leaders Jim and Tammy Baker skipped church services today and led reporters on a high-speed chase instead to a restaurant that stayed open especially to serve them lunch. The Bakers have been given a reprieve on their eviction notice from their million-dollar parsonage, as Jackie Judd reports.
The Bakers sped away from the plush house owned by PTL and went out to lunch. They soon returned, and through a spokesman said they can't vacate the house by tomorrow, the deadline set by PTL's new management. At his church in Lynchburg, Virginia, the Reverend Jerry Falwell claimed there never was a June 15th deadline, but he's now giving the Bakers 30 days or so to get out.
They have any reasonable time they wish to leave, and they know that. I don't think they have any misgivings that we're going to be unkind.
Near the grounds of Heritage USA in South Carolina, a group of PTL contributors clamored for Falwell's resignation.
Who does he think he is that he has no sins? Jim has already asked for forgiveness, and someone much greater than Jerry Falwell has already forgiven him.
Falwell minimized the strength of his opponents.
The few little dissidents, and my guess is you could get them all on this porch here without being half as crowded as we are today, do not speak for anyone but themselves and their own selfish interest.
Blaming the Bakers' excesses, the PTL last week filed for reorganization under the federal bankruptcy laws. Falwell hopes it is out of bankruptcy within a year, with the multi-million-dollar TV ministry and religious resort intact, minus, of course, Jim and Tammy Baker. Jackie Judd, ABC News, Lynchburg, Virginia.
There were these developments today on the killer virus AIDS. Education Secretary William Bennett endorsed isolating prison inmates with AIDS and said some prisoners should be kept in jail beyond their sentences to prevent the spread of the disease. Conservative Senator Jesse Helms said the only way to stop AIDS is to quarantine people who test positive for the AIDS virus. Florida officials actually have quarantined one individual suffering from AIDS, and that has raised a storm of controversy. Mike Von Frem reports from Pensacola.
This is Millie after receiving confirmation that her 14-year-old boy has the AIDS virus. To protect her son, Millie does not want us to identify them. The state persuaded a judge to order the boy quarantined in this hospital where he remains today. The reason, according to the state, is that Millie's son remains sexually active, allegedly frequenting areas near Pensacola's gay bars. The youth also tried to commit suicide after he learned he had the AIDS virus. Millie concedes she has a troubled son, but she insists the state has no right to quarantine her 14-year-old.
It hurts. It's scary. And I miss him. And he misses me. He wants to be home.
Civil rights and gay activists share Millie's outrage.
What is most frightening is that this is a clear example of AIDS hysteria by, of all people, a state health department.
Responding to criticism, health officials now say they made a mistake and that the youth will be released, but not to his mother.
The request for quarantine was not appropriate in this case, and that we will move on Tuesday to vacate the order. At the same time, we will seek custody of the youngster.
Florida officials insist that they have to find some way of effectively supervising the youth for the safety of its citizens and the youth's own good. For Millie, the state taking custody of her child is as bad as a quarantine.
Whether they like it or not, I want my baby home. He's mine. They wasn't supposed to take him to begin with.
While this case is now considered unique, health officials are well aware that as the virus spreads, this situation could become more common. And it illustrates the type of problems a community faces when it tries to be both compassionate towards those who have the disease while doing everything it can to protect those who do not. Mike Von Fremd, ABC News, Pensacola, Florida.
Geraldine Page, considered one of America's greatest actresses, has died of a heart attack at the age of 62. After 7 Academy Award nominations, Miss Page won the Best Actress Oscar for her role in the 1986 film, A Trip to Bountiful. She appeared in more than 500 stage plays and was best known for her portrayal of tormented heroines in the dramas of Tennessee Williams. She starred in the current Broadway revival of Noel Coward's comedy, Blithe Spirit. Italians began 2 days of voting today to elect a new national government and settle a bitter power struggle between the Christian Democrat and Socialist parties. In all, candidates from 17 political parties are running for more than 900 seats in the parliament. Pierre Salinger looks at one candidate who stands out in the crowd.
More than 10,000 persons are running for the Italian parliament. But this one is different. She is an American. She was born in New Jersey and grew up in Pittsburgh. While going to college in Boston, she met and married a young Italian citizen. In 1985, her husband, the prominent economist Ezio Tarantelli, was assassinated in Rome by the Red Brigades. As his widow, she became a prominent person by meeting with imprisoned Red Brigades terrorists and persuading them to renounce violence. This year, the American-born Carol Tarantelli is running for the parliament as an independent on the communist ticket. She says her parents, who are both fervent Reaganites, might be a little shocked, but the communists are pleased.
Well, a lot of people have really liked that. One old-time communist, he said to me, finally, the party has done something good, put an American in. We think that there should be only Americans in our list.
The communists, who have consistently held the second largest number of seats in Parliament, are trying to increase the number of their women members to 30%. Since 1947, the communists have not participated in any government, despite the fact their honest administration of large cities and regions has been highly praised. In recent years, the communists have cut their ties with Moscow and are striving for the image of a social democratic party.
I think they would have a revolution on their hands the next day if they tried to join up with the Soviet system.
The elections, which are being held today and tomorrow, will once again not produce a majority party. Italy, which has changed governments on the average of every 10 months since the end of World War II, is once again likely to produce a fragile coalition, this time dominated by the Christian Democrats and Socialists. And Carol Tarantelli is virtually sure to be elected, but the communists will probably once again be excluded from the government. Pierre Salinger, ABC News, Rome.
Iran is categorically denying reports that some Americans kidnapped in Beirut have been moved to Iran for intense interrogation and possible trial as spies. A spokesman for Iran's embassy in Beirut said, and I quote, "The Iranian Islamic Republic has nothing to do with the hostages, whoever they are," unquote. And now, sports. The Los Angeles Lakers are the NBA champions, winners in 6 games over the Boston Celtics. The Lakers, down by 5 points at the half, opened the second half with an 18-2 scoring spurt. James Worthy's steal and Magic Johnson's magic highlighted the run and lifted Los Angeles to a decisive victory. This is the Lakers' 4th NBA championship this decade. Throughout the series, while the Lakers and Celtics have been battling away on the court, 2 veteran broadcasters have been describing the games to fans in Los Angeles and Boston. With that story of style and flair tailor-made for the hometown crowd, here's Kathleen Sullivan.
Hi there once again, everybody. This is Johnny Most high above courtside here at the Boston Garden.
I'm Chick Hearn with Keith Erickson. We're joined by 14,890 rabid Celtic fans.
They're as different as the basketball teams they represent. Chick Hearn, smooth and poetic, like his Los Angeles Lakers. Johnny Most, like his Celtics, proud and aggressive. And while they both share career longevity, they differ on exactly what their role is. Hearn has covered the Lakers for 26 years. Most has rooted openly for the Celtics for 34.
The good guys are always the guys who wear green and white. The bad guys are the guys who wear the other colors.
Heavens no, I don't root for them. If I have any complaints from Laker fans, it's because I'm too neutral.
I'm saying it right off, right out. I want the Celtics to win. That's honest.
I want the Lakers to win, but I don't want anybody to know it. And if they're playing poorly, it's reported.
With these philosophies, they watch the same game. Take an incidental moment in Thursday's Game 5. It may sound like 2 different games.
Goes. Danny holds the ball. In the pivot now to McHale. McHale tried the slip move, and boy, McHale has got to feel like a corned beef sandwich right now. Somebody fouled him. I don't know who. He got hit by a lot of guys.
Out to Danny Ainge, looking into the post of McHale against Michael Thompson. It goes into McHale. He pump fakes, and Kareem steals the ball, but a foul. Is that Kareem's? Let's see.
He calls it the way he sees it out there. If there's a great play by an opponent, he calls it a great play. And if there's a dumb play by one of the Laker players, he calls it a dumb play.
Everything Johnny sees, he sees through green lenses. People from out of town don't understand it. People who come into this town are screaming, how can Johnny Most call a game like that? They don't understand.
Most understands his job to be an entertainer as well as a reporter. He never holds back an opinion about a Celtic opponent.
I remember the time that Jeff Ruland was extremely upset because his mother had been listening. So Johnny went on the broadcast that night, and the first thing he said is he started his opening, "This is Johnny Most high above courtside. Mrs. Ruland, shut off your radio."
Show business, all right? I mean, there's an element of show business in this thing. Magic brings the ball up top. Fiddles and diddles. Daddles and doodles. Now fiddles again.
Magic comes the other way. Magic always plays like it's a tied ball game. Magic yo-yoing up and down like it's on the end of a string.
Hearn has missed only 2 Laker games in more than 2,000, and he takes seriously the responsibility of being a listener's eye.
He calls it a word's eye picture, and that's exactly what it is. He paints the most beautiful picture of the ball game in action.
When I get up to my booth tonight, I will do about 5 minutes of the Lakers-Celtic game. I'll make it up. Why? Because I want to warm up. Ball tipped into the backcourt. Magic Johnson snaps a 2-hand pass over to Byron Scott. He dribbles the front court, takes it into Kareem. He swings left, shoots right. No good from 12. Rebound, Parrish. And then take it in for about 5 minutes.
Whether Chick Hearn is painting a picture or Johnny Most is rooting openly, they're both happiest during a basketball game. They can't imagine being anywhere else.
We just got the second quarter underway, in case you tuned in late, and if you did tune in late, where you been?
Boy, just to be here is a privilege. Just to broadcast all you wonderful fans.
Kathleen Sullivan, ABC News.
And when we come back, how one man has made a big difference in St. Helena, California. San Francisco has the Golden Gate Bridge, and St. Helena has Dr. Wood. That's how one of St. Helena's 5,000 residents expressed the sleepy town's feelings for its local hero as they gathered today to celebrate the 91st birthday of his. Judd Rose was there.
Here in California's wine country, where everything improves with age, it is a vintage year, not for wine, for wood.
Good morning.
Good morning. Dr. George Wood is making his daily rounds. There are no patients to see. He retired last year, but he hasn't stopped making people feel better.
Gee, you keep your age so swell.
Well, thank you very much.
The only medicine he practices now is checking the blood pressure of senior citizens. But he was the town doctor in St. Helena when many of these folks were babies. 61 years of surgeries, emergencies, house calls, deliveries.
I've gone to Dr. Wood since I was real young, and he delivered my son and my grandchildren. He's the greatest.
He stood witness to life and death.
Dr. Wood was with my mother when she passed away suddenly, and he was the most compassionate human being in the world. He just cried right along with the family. We love him.
This is a hometown general practitioner that has cured our bodies and delivered our babies and many times healed us spiritually. That kind of individual that you don't see a whole lot of anymore.
His patients love him, and the feeling is mutual.
To me, they're all just personal friends. There's no question. I'm interested in every single one.
When he wasn't healing, he was helping. Well off from investments, Wood gave $500,000 to build a new town library.
We call him our library angel.
He was also an angel to the high school, anonymously funding hundreds of college scholarships.
I guess I have a philosophy. You don't take anything with you.
He had no children, and I think he sort of adopted the whole town as his family.
Well, this weekend, Dr. Wood turned 91 years old, so his family decided to throw him a little party.
Hello, Dr. Wood. It's a great day. We're all happy for you.
Well, it's nice for you to know, Dr. Wood.
How are you?
Those whose lives he touched, they came by the hundreds from all over the country to show their love. The young.
Why do you like Dr. Wood?
Because he's sweet.
And the old.
Greatest little man in town.
They had a pancake breakfast and a parade with some of the 2,000 babies Dr. Wood delivered. It seemed like the whole town turned out to offer their cheers, to send storefront salutes.
To pay tribute to someone who's made a mark. I think we all want to make a mark, but maybe we don't all get to. And this man did.
He's a vanishing breed. New doctors may come along, but it won't be the same.
I tell them they're missing something.
What?
The personal touch.
So happy birthday, Dr. Wood. You delivered life into this town in more ways than one.
Happy birthday, Dr. Wood. Happy birthday to you.
Judd Rose, ABC News, St. Helena, California.
And that's our report. I'm Tom Gerald for ABC News. Good night.
World News Sunday is a presentation of ABC News.